Welcome to the LPL Brief, and initially I said that this video was delayed because I wanted to grab some clips from bots, but when I was watching them I realized that most of the observations I was making happened over an extreme length of time, and so if I wanted to include specific clips I'd probably have to be very selective about everything else, and ultimately this is more than I can actually invest in this project right now. So at the moment, the LPL Brief, I just want it to be short observations. So instead of getting overly ambitious, I want to make sure I'm able to consistently produce this kind of content. And when I want to do more in-depth pieces, I'll probably do an article or a longer video project. Anyway, talking briefly about QGs Flop. So this week, QG lost not one, but two series. One was to LGD, and you could kind of explain this off by saying, oh, LGD surged, they had a great 2 series, this was very amazing from them, they played cleanly, they played tightly, this was a little bit of the old LGD. To an extent that's the case, but I think also QG over time have shown strange problems that they didn't have in the LPL before. So going back a little bit to the first LPL brief that I made recently to start the week, which was talking about the effect of Intel Extreme Masters on LPL teams, specifically in discussing lane swaps. Prior to the Intel Extreme Masters, QG had a fairly unique style, and this was demonstrated in their first game against Snake, I think probably the best, where they opted into the first turret trade, and then they sent Peko top. They sent 2 people with him, so they pushed up the first wave with Swift and more, I believe, but then everyone B'd, and they went and defend the second turret push. So Snake got 2 turrets, and QG only got the 1. In this case, Peko began to freeze the side wave, and this is the part that is more complicated, and so if I wanted to discuss QG's exact playstyle at this time, I'd want to do a VOD review, but right now it's not really valuable to do a VOD review of a week 3 game. It's just not going to give us a whole lot. So just briefly discussing what happened was they pushed the wave up to the turret, they went back to defend second tier. They left V there, and then V and Peko were able to freeze the wave at the turret with Moore stopping the 2v2 at the bottom. So Moore stayed with V instead of with Peko. And so Peko got soul experience, soul gold at the top. From this, you see V and Peko trading off the side wave push. So Peko is pushed out. The bot lane has to rotate top from Snake to meet Peko suddenly. And then V is able to slow push the wave at the bottom because Peko then Bs, right, as Snake are pushing off and they're threatening the tier 2 now on top. So then you have Moore and Peko back. So a lot of the action and turret defense that happens to keep Snake from taking these additional turrets while QG are freezing both sides of the wave is on Moore, and Moore rotating intelligently between these 2 lanes. Then it trades off again. Peko continues to push up while V freezes, slow pushes bottom. These sorts of things keep trading off until Peko has 2 items. At that point, he rotates very intentionally to the mid lane. They start threatening mid lane turret. There's a really bad fight at the top because of the poor vision, but then they have another fight around Dragon that's much better. So after he hits this very deliberate power spike, QG are able to start playing their style. So this is the way QG played before, and they were able to keep control in this fashion. A lot of it was down to vision control. And why I think this is the biggest part of it was that Swift at this time was playing a high farm jungle, Graves, and he was just farming the entire time. So the casters, when I watched the recent video, they said that they made this comment like, QG are giving up so much to give Swift farm, because I really do think that that's why they're doing the style. So I agree with the casters in this sense, is that they give up the turrets, not for V and Peko, but for Swift, who is the one getting the majority of the benefit from this, while CCR is trying to rotate and create additional pressure with the side waves, because ZZR has been open about thinking that the jungle's biggest point of impact in lane swap scenarios is rotating between the lanes and keeping the push. At Intel Extreme Masters, we didn't really see QG try to attempt to execute this type of style again. And we haven't really seen them do it since. They've been trying to opt into the lane swapping. I've been trying to opt into the more traditional lane swap of pushing out the turrets, trading the turrets, rotating to the next objective, perhaps counter swapping, meeting the swap. They've tried this strategy a lot with UZI because I think they want the 2v2 more, and so they'll go out of their way to try to get the 2v2 with UZI more often and do the counter swap. But I don't think their counter swapping is very good because usually their top laner falls behind in farm. For example, in the second LGD game, they did the counter swap, right? V was behind Marin and farm by an entire wave right off the bat. This was a big problem with their counter swap strategy. So I think that QG now are kind of playing by the seat of their pants. They don't really know what they're doing. Without this style that they were developing, which was really unique, they don't have anything. They don't have an identity. They don't know how to play around UCI. They don't know how to play around Pekka. They don't know what they're doing. So they begin stagnating and they play a bunch of Maokai, Victor, Sivir, and not all of this is that good right now, and Victor is not the best pick, but it's the only pick that Doinby seems to be playing well right now. They're making more mechanical errors, just more micro errors. In the past, you watch QG game and you say, okay, they're going to pick a team fight around 20 minutes. They're probably going to win it because they won't make these errors. And V's flanking is really, really key to this type of play style. V goes in with the TP. He gets the perfect flank with maybe a Lissandra ultimate, anything like this. And the fight goes as planned because everyone has the correct point of entry. Everyone's doing the right pickoff. So they get the great comeback fight. And they have vision properly aware. In the Snake game, we see all sorts of just random mistakes. Like something so ridiculous as Pekko starts to initiate with Sivir ultimate because he sees V's TP, then V cancels his TP. No one is canceling his TP. No one is bottom to disrupt the TP. He just cancels it. So is it a misclick? What's going on? Because Pekko had already committed to that and he cancels it. We didn't see QG make these kinds of mistakes. The big fight around Baron where they go and they try to commit to the fight and they go into an alcove where Snake has superior vision control and they're able to get the pick off. QG didn't do this stuff, right, before IEM. So I think they went to IEM, realized their strategy wasn't working, and then decided it wasn't a good strategy, which maybe there's something valid to that. Maybe their strategy was shit. Like, I watched their strategy, and even though I understood kind of why they were doing it and their thought process with this, I realized that it could probably be manipulated and overcome or challenged by more aggressive styles. So this is, again, like the classic esports or just sports or competitive game in general battle where you have one team that's really, really good at one style, one team that's really, really good at another style. The styles come head to head. Maybe there's a clash of some kind where one style is just better than the other one. Or maybe this other style that's really strange and people don't really understand can be honed to such an extent that it's good enough and well executed enough that it's just unexpected and it starts beating people even though theoretically it shouldn't. So this type of thing is not going to happen because QG decided that their style wasn't good, and maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's just not a good style. The problem is that now that they've discarded this style, they don't have anything. Okay, so they're just kind of free-floating, don't really know what they're doing. They're falling at space. They lost 2 series in a row this week. They may lose more series. I think that they're going to be fine because the remaining teams in their group are like EPA, M3. WE is the most challenging team left in their group, for sure, and they'll play them in the last week, but I think until then, QG are probably fine. Going into playoffs, if they can't find something and they don't stop stagnating on these picks that they were picking, frankly, last summer, and were probably good last summer, but not as good now, then QG aren't going to do super well in the playoffs. Unfortunate to see. Discussing the other games, the other series that happened yesterday, we had LGD versus EPA. First series, LGD showed up First game, they got completely smashed by EPA. The thing about Energy Pacemaker All is that they average really, really high gold leads at 10 minutes, so it's not unexpected that they would overtake teams like this. It's just really reckless and surprising play. You know the stereotype that all Chinese teams do is aggress, 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 and then sometimes, because logically you shouldn't try to engage there, it throws like a team that's more logical off, and so they lose really hard early because EPA is just going, and doing these really surprising things. But then eventually the teams wake up and then they start countering some of these plays, and so they lose their huge leads. And then by the third game, EPA can't even really get a lead, right, in the LGD series. LGD kind of said that they had just woken up when they got to the venue. They probably weren't super prepared, which isn't an excuse, but it's a big factor against a team like EPA, I think. They do this to everyone. It's really weird. I would, if people cared enough, I'd probably do a deeper look at Energy Pacemaker All and where they're making these mistakes, because to me it just seems like they're doing the same predictable, oh, we're going to level 2 gank, then we're going to dive this, and then we're going to take our entire team and we're going to try to kill you over and over again. So they get these huge leads, right? But then they don't know what to do with them, and they don't know how to execute after this, and so they just lose. So I wonder where they get the confidence from to keep doing the stuff that they do. And whether, as an Energy Pacemaker All player, when you get to mid-game, do you start to feel like you're going to throw? Do you feel like you're going to win? Even if you have like a 5k, 3k gold lead, do you feel like you're actually going to win? These are the questions. Because it's also not just Energy Pacemaker All, right? Like, Energy Pacemaker last year and last spring had the same problem. Energy Pacemakers before have had the same problem. I think it's like an LSPL syndrome that's exaggerated in Energy Pacemaker teams in particular. Even Zou, when I interviewed him, he said things like, when you scrim LSPL teams, you can learn a lot from them, especially in the early game, because they do a lot of weird, surprising things. Second series, I went over what my thoughts on QG and Snake. Snake, on the other side of the coin, they just did normal Snake stuff. You know, they'd get these leads and these lane swaps because they do understand at least how to prioritize which turrets, how to keep the tempo going, how to get the farm lead on their top laner. The problem is that after that, they kind of wander around and don't do anything. So it's like EPA, lane swapping. On a team fight, and they're not coordinated, and I don't know, QG just threw repeatedly. Like, QG should have won both games, probably, to be completely honest. It's really... Watch those games. They were good. Finally, WE versus M3. Which wasn't even worth talking about, because they were just both big, huge blowouts, where Mystic and Condi got to do whatever they wanted the entire game. The entire game, pretty much. I mean, Condi even got to play in Italy. Yeah, fun times. Anyway, this has been the LPL Brief. Hopefully these videos keep getting a little bit better. Like I said, I am going to try to limit the focus of these to be less slightly ambitious. I'll talk a lot about some of these ideas in as much detail as I can, but they'll probably just be mostly reflection-based videos. Anyway, thank you for watching, and have a nice day. To discuss QG's exact playstyle at this time, I'd want to do a VOD review, but right now it's not really valuable to do a VOD review of a week 3 game. It's just not going to give us a whole lot. So just briefly discussing what happened was they pushed the wave up to the turret, they went back to defend second tier. They left V there, and then V and Pekko were able to freeze the wave at the turret with Moore stopping the 2v2 at the bottom. So Moore stayed with, instead of getting overly ambitious, I want to make sure I'm able to consistently produce this kind of content. And when I want to do more in-depth pieces, I'll probably do an article or a longer video project. Anyway, talking briefly about QGs Flop. So this week, QG lost not one, but 2 series. One was to LGD, and you could kind of explain this off by saying, oh, LGD surged, they had a great 2 series, this was very amazing from them, they played cleanly, they played tightly, this was a little bit of the old LGD, probably the best, where they opted into the first turret trade, and then they sent Pekko top. They sent 2 people with him, so they pushed up the first wave with Swift and Moore, I believe, but then everyone B'd, and they went and defend the second turret push. So Snake got 2 turrets, and QG only got the 1. In this case, Peko began to freeze the side wave, and this is the part that is more complicated, and so if I wanted to an extent that's the case, but I think also QG over time have shown strange problems that they didn't have in the LPL before. So going back a little bit to the first LPL brief that I made recently to start the week, which was talking about the effect of Intel Extreme Masters on LPL teams, specifically in discussing lane swaps. Prior to the Intel Extreme Masters, QG had a fairly unique style, and this was demonstrated in their first game against Snake, I think. Welcome to the LPL Brief, and initially I said that this video was delayed because I wanted to grab some clips from bots, but when I was watching them, I realized that most of the observations I was making happened over an extreme length of time, and so if I wanted to include specific clips, I'd probably have to be very selective about everything else, and ultimately, this is more than I can actually invest in this project right now. So at the moment, the LPL brief, I just want it to be short observations. So instead